We're continuing today Perek Yud Aleph. We'll try to finish the Perek. After the Milchama that we spoke about last week, it says in the Pasuk, Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Tesvav, Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe Avdoi, Ketziva Moshe es Yehoshua, V'chen oso Yehoshua, Loheisir Dover, Michoel asher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. ויקח ישוע את כל הארץ הזו סהור ואת כל הנגב ואת כל ארץ הגוישן ואת השפילו ואת סוהרובו ואת הר ישראל בשפילוסו מנהור החולק האויל שעיר ועד בעל גוד בביקס הלבונין תחת הרחבון ואת כל מלכיהם לא חד ויקם וימיסם. It says Yeshua took all of their Malchayim, and he killed all the Melachim. Yomim Rabim, also Yeshua es kol ha-melachim ha'ele, Milchama. So, Zokt Rashi, what does it mean Yomim Rabim also? I'm quoting Rashi. What does it mean Yomim Rabim also? Bignusoi Siper HaKosuf. Shoyo miskavein lidchois es kibush ha'oretz כדי להאריך יומוב, לפי שנאמר, ואתו תנחילנו איסם. Rashi brings down in Mechilta state that Yehoshua is a gnai in Yeshua. That since the Torah said, Ato tanchilenu, which means kibush and chalukah has to be done on Yeshua, so Kivyochol Yeshua is trying to prolong and to postpone and to procrastinate the kibush ha'oretz in order to gain some times, because Kadosh Baruch Hu said it's tzivui v'ato tanchilenu iso. You know, if you look at the milchamis we learned until now, the first 11 prokim, the milchama in Dorim Eretz Yisrael started as soon as they crossed the yard. Milchemes Yericho, Milchemes Ai. It took a couple of weeks till all those milchamis took place. However, the milchama in Tzofin Ha'oretz takes 6.5 years. 7 years of Kibush Chalukah splits to the first Milchamis, which were done 1 to 3 in 2-3 months, and the rest of it, Sheva Shechibshu, took 6.5 years. And the reason why, Rashi is bothered, why did he take Yomim Rabim? Because Yeshua had Kivyochel Egen and Negias that he wanted to not to die. So he had a life insurance policy. Because Baruch Hu told he's not going to die before he finishes the kibush, therefore he's taking his time. Rashi's Mekoyer is the Tanchuma. Let me read you the Tanchuma inside. Ksiv Yeshua kasher isi Moshe heye imoch v'hoyo tzorich Yehoshua lichyois kuf chof shono keMoshe Rabbeinu. Yeshua had to live kasher isi. There was a haftoche. Whatever the Rebbe had, the Talmud should have. So, Veloma niskatzru eser shonim. Why was his life shortened 10 years? Fi shebeshor shom ala Kadosh Baruch Hu nekoim nikmas bnei Yisrael afal pi shenisbasa b'seiros maves lo yom mocher animeis may oyeli she'en kan b'midyam and in izdaras lo yiseyin k'mo shenemar vayishlach yisem Yeshua. Aval, he says, Moshe Rabbeinu, Kadosh Baruch Hu told him, before you die, there's a Milchemes Midian. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't postpone. He got a tzivu. He went right away, even though he knows, because Baruch Hu says, B'terem Tomus. Aval Yeshua, it says, Le'osakein, Sheboli Lochem im Lamed Aleph Melochim. When he came to have the Milchama here with the 31 Melochim, Omar, Imani Hoirge Miyad Animeis, Keshem She'er Moshe Rabbeinu. Ma also, Ischil Be'echo, Ume'akev B'milcham Tom, Shenem HaYom Im Rabim Osa Yeshua, Es Kol HaMelochim HaEle Milchama. Omar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'kach Osiso, you think Yegen Cheshbon, Ani Mekatzer Shnei Secho, as a Shonim we find at the end of Sefer Yeshua, Yeshua dies at the age of 110, though Moshe Rabbeinu, his Rebbe, he's supposed to be identical to him, dies at the age of 120. So, alle Meforshim, the Rishonim, the Gdoila Achreinim, said that Yeshua is not doing it for his Egen Eteldi. Steht doch Bignusoi, but apparently Yeshua had, steht doch, the Pasuk beforehand, it says, Lo Heisir Dover, steht doch a Pasuk, Lo heisir dover mikol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe. So how do you say a minute later, Egnayin Yeshua, that he procrastinated and he postponed the Milchamas in order to gain some time to defer his Misa? So be'echrech, Daf Mezog, Yeshua had some kind of a reason why he postponed this Milchama. So be'emes the Meforshim have two different Mahalchim. What is the motive of Yeshua to make the Milchama take longer? If you look in the Torah, it says a pasuk in Parshas Vayeschanan, "V'noshal Hashem Elokecha es hagoyim ha'elu miponecho me'at me'at, lo yituchol kaloiso memaher pertir be'alecho chayes asod." The same thing. I mean, the Klal Yisrael, the life in the Midbar, was a hanhoga of Nes. The whole hanhoga in the Midbar was a Nes Muchlat. There was nothing kederech hateva. The man, the be'er, the ananikovet. Anything they did in the Midbar was getting food, which is the basic necessity of a person, normally is done through Charish and Zriya. Kadosh Baruch Hu throws a man in Hashemayim. Putting a roof over your head to be making you with the Rambam Shteit Mipnei Acham Mipnei Akshomim. You have only covered. They even had dry cleaner services to iron their clothes. The Anonei covered. As they state, they come to Eretz Yisrael and Yeshua made such a cheshbon. They come to Eretz Yisrael. The first Milchama is Milchemes Yericha. Milchemes Yericha, as we learned, was totally nes. It was nothing more than nes. They go around, they blow a shofar, the Chayma caves in, they go and they kill. The same goes the eye, and so on and so forth. Yeshua understood that if the Milchama, now you come into Eretz Yisrael, the Milchemes Ha'ai and Milchemes Chabeshes HaMelochim, even though there was some kind of a natural, there was an ambush and a whole strategic plan of how to do the Milchama, yet there was some kind of Milchama Tivis, as the Radak calls it, even though there was Isarvus Nisis, there was a Milchama Tivis. As I stated the Lashon Radak. So Yeshua understood that the transition period from Anhogo Nisis to Anhogo Tivis, this transformation from living Kule al Pines to living Kule al Piteva, it has to be something me'at lo yituchal kaleiso maher. Therefore, Yeshua is taking his time, and therefore he is doing it until this transition goes into the mind, penetrates the mind of Klal Yisrael to understand that this is going to be right now. The life is al pi derech hateva, ish tachas gafne v'tachas tein nosoi, and we are removing the anhoga nisis, the anhoga tivis. That's Hesber number 1, the Rishonim says. Hesber number 2, I'm combining you the Ramban, the Radak, the Ralbag, and the Barbanel. And they're all touching this subject. What was Yeshua's motive, real motive, besides his Eged and Egis? The second pshat in the Rishonim is Yeshua understood that the kibush of Eretz Yisrael cannot be completed until you have a new generation growing in Eretz Yisrael. You see, if you look in Parashat Bechukoisai, it says, "V'yisid lachem daishes batzir v'botzi yosei gezer v'achaltem lachlev natoiva v'yeshavtem lovetach ba'artzeichem." This is the haftoch according to Ramban of coming into Eretz Yisrael and tachas gafnei tachas teinosoi v'yeshavtem lovetach. Shteitach in posuk v'yishbati chai roa min haaretz v'cherev l'tava ba'artzeichem u'redaftem l'fnei oivechem v'nofnu l'fneichem l'chorov. This whole haftoch v'rotfu mechem chamisha meo mea mechem revova yedoifu. And then it says, "V'noflo ivechem lefnechem lechorov uponisi aleichem ve'ifreisi eschem ve'irbeisi eschem ve'akemoisi ebrisi eschem." Shteitoch klo in Teres Koyanim. The haftocha in Eretz Yisrael, after you eradicate you do the milchamas of v'noflo ivechem lefnechem lechorov, this is haftocha of a new generation, not the Dor HaMidbar has to grow in Eretz Yisrael. Yeshua understood that it's not enough that there will be some of them born in Eretz Yisrael. They have to be kids that by the time they start living in Eretz Yisrael, they have to be bnei mitzvahs. In order for people that were born in Eretz Yisrael to be bnei mitzvahs, to take 13 years. So, and we're talking about kids that were hoyrosam in Eretz Yisrael. So the year of the heroyen, as I state in Ralbag, the year of the Eroyan and the year of the 13 years for having those kids growing up to be G'dolim and Chayiv and the Mitzvahs at least Ba'aretz, Yeshua understood that it has to take at least 14 years before he's completing the Kibush, because we do need new Eretz Yisrael dike Giboirene, new Doir Chodosh, not Doir Amidbar, it's Doir Boyer Oretz, which were Hirosoi Veleidosoi B'Kedusha in Eretz Yisrael, and that's why this process of Kibush V'Chalukah was stretched over 14 years. And Afal Pichein, it's Bignusoi, because Vibal there was some kind of, apparently, Yeshua said there was, even though he understood that it has to be done for different motives, either for the transition from Nes to Teva, or from having the Eretz Yisrael given to Yelidei Haaretz, yet Yeshua had to really stick to the tzivui and not to make cheshbonis. And other, the Shtetach of the Gemara, B'Chizkiyahu HaMelech, he saw in Ruach HaKodesh he's not going to have children, so he wasn't icing with Pir Verivia, because he didn't want to have children. And Asher was a came Yeshayahu HaNavi, told him, Ba'adei Kafshe de Rachmon Elamaloch, Man de Mifkades Yiboyes Loch Lemevad, Man de Nicha Kom Yekutshu Brichu Le'avet. As I state in Gemara, your tzivui is to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzavah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you, go ahead and conquer and be kovish Eretz Yisrael, even though you have richtig cheshbonos. The cheshbonos are fine. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has his own ways of how to be inside of the world, and if he wants, there will be such a new generation, and the transformation will take place, even if you make the milchama a milchama, expedited milchama, without stretching it and postponing it. Therefore, Yeshua is really Le'isidova. Yeshua really obeys. But there was some kind of Egen Cheshbon, his own Negias. Balti had his own Negias, so this is Yomim Rabim, as Avis Shitetin Talchuma, Bitnai, there was at Bignusa Shel Yeshua. Pasuk Weiter says, Vayovoy Yehoshua, Pasuk Yud Chof Aleph, Boesoi, Vayachres es ha'anokim min hor, min chevre, min dvir, min anov, umin kol har Yehuda, min kol har Yisrael, limarei mechibim Yeshua. Lo inoisar anokim, there were giants in Eretz Yisrael, in all those places, in Chevron, in Dvir, in Anov, Yeshua was Hechrim. Rak be'azo, u'begas, u'be'ashdod nishahu. Only in these three places, in Azo, Shtetoch later, in Sefer Shoftim, beginning of Sefer Shoftim, there were Machris, the Anokim, also from Chevron, and from those Mekoimes in Azo, Shevet Yehuda came and afterwards killed those Anokim. But Yeshua basically calls all these Anokim from all these Shtetoch. Vayikach Yeshua es kol ha'oretz kechol asher dibra Hashem al Moshe, vayitno Yeshua lenachalo leYisrael, kemachloiksom leshivteihem, ve'ha'oretz shokto imilcham. Shtetoch klor kemachloiksom leshivteihem. Vaisto is only any one of the Shvatim, yet to belong to a tribe, is the one who is getting chelek in Eretz Yisrael. We know that throughout the Midbar and throughout those 14 years, there were many Gerim, which was Niteis of the Klal Yisrael. A lot of people came, Geios and Mekablim Gerim. We know from Zayin Alam, we saw them, what do you do in Zamayim, Bo, Mekablim, Ei Mekablim, Koidim Sheyov V'Sayadna, Achashov V'Sayadna. Not getting involved right now, he knows, but there were many Toizin to Toizin Mishpachos of Gerim, as we're going to see later, which were Nistapeach Lenachal As Hashem, and they came. But being that says Yeshua Vayitne Yeshua Lenachalo, Yeshua is splitting Eretz Yisrael, Lenachalo Kemachloiksom Leshivteim. In other words, as they split up according to the Shvatim, Yeshua gave the Nachlo to anybody who was a member of a tribe. Only somebody who was a chelik from a shevet. So the Gerim don't have any chelik in any shvatim. They don't belong. They don't have, being that they came in later. So the Chura, they're not mekabel chelik in Eretz Yisrael. If I look in the Torah, I don't have to go far. If I look in Sefer Bamidbar, and in the Psukim in Parashas Pinchas and Parashas Matais, Shteitoch Klor in the Psukim, Lo eile techalek ha'oretz benachal b'mispar shemes larav tar benachalosei v'lame'at tam mit nachalosei ish lefi pkudov yitein nachalosei Ach begoyrel cholik esos lishmois matois avoiso min cholu. I'm reading you the Sifrim Bamidbar. State, what does it mean? Lishmois matois avoisom yotzu gerim ve'avodim. Being that gerim and avodim don't have matos avoisom, a ger doesn't have a yachas. He's not a misyachas after his father. Ger shel izgay kakodesh ne'elodomi. He doesn't have a father. His father also wasn't part of the Shvatim. In any event, he's starting a new life. He has zero connection to the previous generation, certainly not to any one of the Shvatim. Steht doch klar in Sifri, when you split Eretz Yisrael, you do not give chelik, not to avodim, and not to gerim. Okay. Fragen the Mishvarshi. Avram Avinu, when he started, Avram Avinu ben Tishi v'teisha shana, when he gets the tzivui on Milo, steht doch in Torah, ki av hamoin goyim nesaticha. So Rashi, what does it mean, av hamoin goyim? Lefonim, steht in Rashi, I'm quoting Rashi, Lefonim lo hoyo av elo le'arom, shu mekoyme. Avram Avinu comes from Aram Naharaim, so beforehand he was only a father to Aram. Ve'achshov av lekol ho'elo. It says, Ve'achshov av lekol ho'elo. Go back 29 years before. Avram is the age of 70. Bris ben Abisarim, as we spoke many times, Bris ben Abisarim, according to Bryce, the Seder Oilam took place 5 years prior to Avram Avinu, second coming into Eretz Yisrael. He first came to Eretz Yisrael at the age of 70. It was a Bris ben Abisarim. The 430 years count for Abba Mitzvah Shleishim Shana in Mitzrayim starts from Bris ben Abisarim 30 years before Yitzchak is born, and he goes back to Choran, to his father. After his father dies, he makes Aliyah the second time when Ben Shivim Shana v'Chomish Shanim, 75 years old. That's the beginning of Parshas Lech Lecha. And even though Bris ben Abisarim is late in Parshas Lech Lecha, but we know that the events, Zeish taking price of the Seder Oilam, took place not according to the Seder HaKosu Bater. So in Bris ben Abisarim, that was 29 years, 28 and a half, 20, almost 29 years prior to Av Hamoin Goyim, which was said in the Shas Amila. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram, Lezara'acho nosati es ha'oretz azois. So every goy that goes into the brisa shel Avram Avinu and Bekabel ol mitzvahs, he should get Av Hamoin Goyim, and you, a father of all the people that Avram Michoel Gerim, should get chelik in Eretz Yisrael. Says the Ramban, there is an nafkamina between the Loshen Zera and the Loshen Av. Zera is only Yoitze Chalotzov, his descendant. Yoitze Michalotov is called a Zera. Av is just a general fatherhood. Like it says, the Ramban says that it's stated by Pare, Vayisimenu la'av lePare. Just gives Avram a general title of a father to Hamoin Goyim. But when the Kadosh Baruch Hu tells him, I'm giving Eretz Yisrael to your children, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Lezar acho nosati es ha'oretz, which means only to your Yitzchak halotzecha, to those who came out of you, your physical descendants. In Bikurim, if you look at the Mishnah at the beginning of Maseches Bikurim, Perek Aleph, in Mishnah Dalet, Shtei Ta Mishnah, Eilu meviim v'lo koyim. You know, Parashat Bikurim, you bring the Bikurim. Person has to bring the first fruit that's grown, and he brings it to Beis Hamikdash, and he makes Hakrovas Bikurim. He says a parsha. There is a din of Kriyas a parsha. And the Mishnah says, "Eilu meviim ve'einam koyim." There are people that are mevi Bikurim. There are people that are not mevi Bikurim, Potter and Gansen, but there are people that are mevi Bikurim, but they're not koyim. There is no Kriyas a parsha of Bikurim. Hager, it's the Mishnah in Bikurim. Maybe ve'ena koyer, it brings bikurim, but it doesn't say the parasha is bikurim. Why? Sheinu yochalim asher nishbato la'aveisenu losses lon. Because it's not aveisenu. Asher nishbato la'aveisenu, and you don't have aveisenu. How could you say the parasha asher nishbato la'aveisenu? You read the parasha. It says, "Oh, it's a teva asher nishbato la'aveisenu losses lon." It's not aveisenu. As I state a Mishnah in the beginning of Maseches Bikurim. If you look in the Yerushalmi in the beginning of Bikurim, Rabbi Yudo Omer, Ger Mevi V'Koyre, right? Zokte why? Sharei Omar Hakosuv Ki Av Hamoin Goyim Nesatich. So Rabbi Yudo comes and says, you're wrong. You say Ger is Mevi V'Koyre. I disagree with you. In our Mishnayos, Das Rabbi Yudo doesn't appear, but the Rash brings down right away the Yerushalmi. Shalmi Shteit Rabbi Yudo Omer Ger Mevi V'Koyre. Why? Because it says Avrom Av Hamoin Goyim nesaticho. The Rambam, if I look at the Rambam in Hilchos Bikurim Perek Dalet, the Rambam brings down the halacha. The Rambam Paskins always like the Yerushalmi. Hager meivi v'koire shenema lavrom av hamoin goyim nesaticho. Arei hu av kol ha'olam kuloi shenichnosim tachas kanfei hashchina. Okay, so that's fine. The Rambam Paskins like Rabbi Yehuda in Yerushalmi that av hamoin goyim makes it the ger able to say Asher nishbata laviseinu. You could say Asher nishbata laviseinu losses lanu. But the Rambam adds on a few words, which seem to be a little bit not understood. Maybe because shenem lavrom avamoin goyim nesaticha rerav kol ha'olam kula shenichnosim tachas kanfei hashchina uleavrom hoiso ashvuo tchilo sheyirshu banov es haaretz. Uleavrom hoiso ashvuo tchilo sheyirshu banov es haaretz. So Pashtas, the Yerushalmi and the Rambam say that the ger is maybe a koyer because l'maise avamoin goyim, you are the father, as the Rambam says, kula shenichnos tachas kanfei hashchina. Fraged al, fraged Mishnah Melech, fraged Kesef Mishnah. If that's the case, if ger is maybe a koyer, because he could say laviseinu. The reason why he could say laviseinu is because Asher nishbata laviseinu, and anybody goes tachas kanfei hashchina is called laviseinu. Avram is called their father. So why aren't the gerim getting a chelik in Eretz Yisrael? If they are children of Avram, why aren't they getting? We wanted to say chelik between the Zera and the Av, but here, Vaistois, in Bikurim, which is supposed to be Asher nishbata laviseinu, zok the Kesef Mishnah. The Rambam says, Asher nishbo lavrom hoisa hashvuo tchila sheyirshu banov es haaretz. I'm reading the Kesef Mishnah. Kloima afal gav d'Avram hoyo av lekol ha'olam loinot legerim chelik ba'aretz mipnei shebitchila koidim shenem aleki av hamoin goyim nesaticho hoisa hashvuo tchila sheyirshu banov es haaretz mimele shelo yizochu b'banov ela banov mamish. Because Mishnah is bothered with a question. If that's the case, if they could say laviseinu, why is in noit lechelik ba'aretz? Says the Kesef Mishnah very poshut. This havtocha of lezaracho nosati es haaretz azois ete nosati, two different psukim, is said prior. That's said in Brisbane Abisorim, which took place 29 years prior to Milos Avram, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him Avamoin goyim nesaticho. So Mimele, that the kids of Avram already got, even though Yitzchak wasn't born yet, but the Maisa was Avtocha and Yitzchak, and it is makne ready to Yitzchak. The Ramban speaks about it. It's like a Dor Shalom Elohim. I was makne. Malkupanim, he gave it over to Avram's children already. So Mimele, there was Zeiche Yitzchak v'Banav was Zeiche in Eretz Yisrael. So Mimele it comes out of the Kesef Mishnah that be Yisoidoi the Gerim are also Zera Avram. Why? Because in Av Hamoin Goyim Nesaticho state that he is their father, Emes a father, not a spiritual father. And when you have to come to say Asher nishbata laviseinu in Bikurim, the Rambam Paschal, like the Yerushalmi, like Rabbi Yehuda, that a ger is maybe the koyer. He is their father, but they cannot be neichel kel ba'aretz. It's like a person gave one of his children at Nachalo before Mechaim, and now the other kids, he dies, he can't give it over because he already gave it over Mechaim to somebody else. So being that the Haftocha from Lazarach or Nosati, which is talking about only his Egen Yitzchak Halotzov, was said and promised prior, 29 years prior to Avram Avinu becoming the father of all the Hamoin Goyim. Therefore, now you come to Eretz Yisrael, there's no Chalukah because it's already given over to Yitzchak and Ban. Azay Zogt, the Kesef Mishnah. If you look at the Mishnah in Nedarim, there's a Mishnah in Nedarim. In the third parak in Nedarim, Shteit in Mishnah, Koinom, if somebody makes a shvur, Koinom she'ein in nehena lebnei Noach, mutar b'Yisrael v'osu b'Masaylo. Koinom she'ein in nehena leZera Avram, if a guy is mudar anoah from Zera Avram, osu b'Yisrael u'mutar b'Masaylo. He's osu b'Yisrael, Zera Avram, mutar b'Masaylo. Says the Rosh, half an hour in the Mishnah in Nedarim. So the Rosh I'm quoting, Ve'osu b'Yisrael v'geirim nami bichlal Zera Avram ninu, the kol shomer Torah bichlal zaroyim. V'ksiv ki av hamoin goyim nesaticho. As a paska the Shulchan the Tur the halacha that if somebody is mudar anoah from Yisrael, he's also not only in Yisrael in Gerim because kol shomer Torah bichlal zaroyim, because it's av hamoin goyim nesaticho. you know, the neder, the shvuah, the koinom was Zera Avram. The Rosh took it to another station. I mean, until now we said that Avram is the father. It's possible Azoi Vaiti is the father that the Ger could say maybe V'koyre. Either b'chatchila we thought he's only like a spiritual father, the Satichel Av Lepare, or he's an emes tate because Avamoin Goyim, he made him into Egen tate. But right now we're talking about Zera Avram. This is already a new dimension. The Rosh is taking it to another chiddush, talking about Zera Avram. To come and say that in the pasuk Ki Avamoin Goyim Nesaticho Shteit Avot from Zera Avram, and the Gerim is considered part of Zera Avram, that's a great chiddush. Zog the Mishnah Melech in Parshas Drachim. He says that the Mekoyer is, why is, if somebody's Mudan off in Zera Avram, he's also also in the Gerim. He says, because Shteitoch, the Rambam says that the reason why Gerim is not L'chelik Bo'aretz is only because Lavrom Oiso, the Avtocha, to give it over to his children. Vaistois, that without this Taine, that there is a prior ownership on Eretz Yisrael, which was given to the Zera Avram Mamish to Yitzchok, Gerim would also take chelik in Eretz Yisrael, right? So Meila be a soido in Avamoin Goyim state that anybody from Soilim was misgayers of the Parshas Drachim, that he is considered Zera Avram l'kol dova ve'inyan, and therefore he should have taken part in Eretz Yisrael. The reason why Gerim don't take chelik in Eretz Yisrael is only a technical support issue, because you gave already prior to that. He gave it already to Yitzchak and Banov. But Avamoin Goyim is not only a spiritual father, it's not only a physical father, but the children are considered Zera Avram. At kedei kach, if somebody said the neder shvuah kainim Zera Avram, the Gerim are included. As a Zok the Parshas Drach. Problem is, the Shagasari is asking a very good question. He says he doesn't understand. He says, if the Rambam in the words, when the Rambam comes along and says, V'lavrom, the Lashon Rambam we read in the punchline, that the Rambam says, V'lavrom, Oisa Shvuah Tchila Shiur Shebonim V'Sa'aretz, is a reason for the Rambam to say the reason why Gerim don't take a chelik in Eretz Yisrael. I don't understand it. The Rambam brings down two different halachas. In Hilchos Bikurim, the Rambam says Ger is maybe v'koyre. In Hilchos Ma'aser Sheni, the Rambam the Shaili the Ger could say vidui. In vidui, the Rambam says, and I'm reading the Rambam in Hilchos Ma'aser Sheni, steht the Rambam Yisrael u'mamzerim misvadim, avaloi gerim ve'avodim mishuchorim, mipnei she'en lam chelek ba'oretz, ve'arei oimer ve'sa'adom asher nosat olonu. There the Rambam says, again, by Bikurim the Rambam paske Ger is maybe v'koyre. Ma'aser Sheni, the Rambam says they bring Ma'aser Sheni, but they're not making a vidu in Ma'aser Sheni. Why? Because since you have to say V'sadom Asher Nosat Olonu, and Gerim Ein Lahem Chelek Ba'aretz. So he says, if the Rambam wants to say in this punchline of the Rambam, he's trying to say a teretz, why isn't Gerim have Chelek in Eretz Yisrael? Because it was a problem that technically 29 years prior to that, he gave it over to Yitzchak and Banov, maybe there's nothing left already given over to Israel. The Rambam should have placed this punchline not in Hilchos Bikurim, and the Rambam says Ger is maybe v'koyre. The mokim to bring the halacha would be in Hilchos Ma'aser Sheni, where the Rambam brings down that Ger cannot say vidui because it says Adom Asher Nosat Oli, Adom Asher Nosat Olonu. Here the Rambam should say V'ger in a little chelek ba'aretz because Avram Avinu was given a shvuah already. It was given aftocha for his children beforehand. Why is the Rambam, if that's the pshat in the punchline of the Rambam, for the Shagasarya, the Rambam should have brought it in the place where Ger is excluded, not where he's included. Because in Hilchos Bikurim, the Rambam passes like a beauty in Yerushalmi, that Ger is maybe v'koyre. Zok the Shagasarya, I'm sorry, but I don't think the pshat in the Rambam is like the Kesef Mishnah that the Rambam is trying to find for why Gerim don't take place in Eretz Yisrael. Shagasarya goes to a different mahalach. Says, if you look at Amichas Asfinin, Daf Peyalef and Baba Basra, there's a machlekes tesis in the Ramban. What is Avamoin Goyim Netzaticha? The shaila is, does it refer only to Avram, or does it refer to other others as well? That's a tesis in Daf Peyalef, if you take a look. steht in Tesis that the halacha of Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha did not go over by Yerusha to Yitzchak. Only Avram is called Av Amoin Goyim, but Yitzchak is not called Av Amoin Goyim. The Ramban there from the Hort says, Kol Shloishes Ovis Nichlolim Be Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha. On all three of them, it says Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha. Zog the Shagasaya, the Rambam holds like the Tesis. Not only Avram Avinu is called Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha. So the Shaila of the Rambam is, how come Avram Avinu? If that's the case, how come a ger? The Rambam Pask is a maybe v'koyre, because he can say Asher Nishbat Olav Yisenu. He can't say Asher Nishbat Olav Yisenu, because this klal of Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha is something which is only given over to Avram and not to other ones. So the Rambam Ula Avram Hoisa Ashvur Tchila Shiyushu Bonim V'Zoretz. It means to say the shvur was before he made the shvur to other ovis. Mele, you could say Asher Nishbal Aviseinu, it means only Avram, therefore you could say Asher Nishbal Aviseinu. He was just, the Rambam was bothered with the question, be that the Rambam holds Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha doesn't go on other ovis. So how does it say Asher Nishbat Aviseinu? So the Rambam, the Avram Bilvad, Oyo Ashvuo, which means to say the shvur to Avram was before Kodesh Baruch Hu swore to other oves. Mele, by saying Asher Nishbatel Vavisein in Pashas Bikurim, it's not a kasha because Avram was levadoi got the shvur. Therefore, you could say Asher Nishbatel Vavisein and refers only to Avram. The problem is that it's a very nice pshat in the Rambam, but the MSCs, the Mishnah in Bikurim, the Hemshech, the Mishnah says, what happened when the ger is mispalo? He is in besmedrash, is mispalo. Shem mispalo bein b'latz omer elokei avois Yisrael, ukshem mispalo beis hakneses omer elokei avois seichem. He says when he davens b'yichidus, he says elokei avois Yisrael. Davens shmineser ger. In davens in shul, he says elokei avois seichem. Right? Why? He can't say elokeinu ve'elokei avois seichem. When you daven shmineser, Baruch atah Hashem elokeinu elokei avois seichem. He can't say b'yichidus, he says avois Yisrael. In besmedrash, he talks to other people. Goes down by the Amud, he says Elokei Avois Seichem. The Rambam doesn't bring down the halacha. The Rambam is mashmi the halacha. And if you look in the Mordche, in Megillah, in the beginning of Megillah, Mordche brings down very interesting a geras that the Rambam wrote to Oivadio Ger Tzedek. There was a famous ger in the time of the Rambam. The Rambam was mechazik, and one of the Shmeini Ikras the Rambam wrote was to Oivadio Ger Tzedek. And the Tzedek asked him, do I have to daven different than otherwise? The Rambam tells him, no, you know what? You could say Elokeinu Elokei Avoseinu. Why? So the Rambam tells himself in the Geras. You find that Bikurim as a Geras maybe the Koire, because he could say Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha. In Mele, he could say Elokeinu Elokei Avoseinu in the Tefillah. That's what the Rambam writes to Evadia Ger Tzedek. You should say Elokeinu Elokei Avoseinu. Don't be mishana from the Nusach. You daven in shul, you say Elokeinu Elokei Avoseinu, because you see that by Bikurim, I pass it, the Rambam pass it like a beauty Yerushalmi, you can say Elokeinu Elokei Avoseinu. If the Rambam said Elokei Avoseinu in Hilchos Bikurim, the Kavanah of the Rambam was that it's only a teretz why Avram could be considered Elokei Avoseinu. I'm sorry, here you can't say that, because what's the next word? Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yankim. So you itemize this Avoseinu. So here it says Befeirush, according to Shakasarya, the Rambam is trying to fahamfer and say the reference to the word Avoseinu means only Avram. The Chura here, this is a Shver Shakasarya. Maybe we'll speak about it at a different time. Just as we mentioned that the Rambam in Hilchos Mesashen, he says that Ger cannot say a vidui. Why? In Hilchos Bikurim, the Rambam says that a ger could say, because it says Av Amoin Goyim Nesaticha, so you could say in Hilchos Bikurim, he's maybe v'koy the Mishnah Melech, who is a steer. In Hilchos Mesashen, the Rambam says V'adom Asher Nosat Alon Yimim Mayet Gerim from Vidui. Why? Because L'not L'chelet Boretz, he can't say V'adom Asher Nosat Alon. So why in the Pashas Bikurim, since ger is Ein Aneit L'chelet Boretz, so why could a ger say the parsha of the Parshas Kriyas Bikurim? Azay Frek, the Mishnah Melech, brings down from the Maharam Eben Chabib, that's a Kapis Tmorim that we have, that there is a difference between the mitzvahs bikurim and mitzvahs ma'aseh sheni. In mitzvahs bikurim it says Asher nishbato la'aviseinu lo seis lanu. Lo seis is loshen osid, is future. And there the halacha is that Gerim, the Osid Lovim, will split Ba'achis Hayom, will split Eretz Yisrael again, will be a Chalukah, Shteit of Klor. If you look in the Pesukim, in Sefer Yehoshua, Perek Mem Zayin, Shteit Klor, that the Gerim will also get Chelik in Eretz Yisrael. Mashein came, in Ma'aseh Sheni, the Pasuk says, Adom Asher Nosato Lonu. We're not referring to the Adom Alaviseinu Loses Lonu, to the future, but to the past. Losses Lonu, we're talking about the Chalukah Sorotzkin, which was done here in the Zman of Yehoshua. Zok, the Maram Eben Chaviv. That's why in Ma'aseh Sheni he cannot say, and Ma'aseh Sheni, the Parsha refers to the past Chalukah in Zman Yehoshua, and the Ger did not get Tikei Chelik Boretz, whereby here they, in Bikurim, we're talking about the Osim. The reason why the Gerim will get in Chelik in Eretz Yisrael, the Kappas Morim says, why are they going to get? Because they're considered Zer Avram according to the Rambam. And when it says Asher Lezaracho Etein Esoretz Azois, is therefore they're going to get Chelik in Eretz Yisrael. So the Kappas Morim said, why didn't they take Chelik in Eretz Yisrael? So the Kappas Morim, because the Gemara says that the Chaluk of Eretz Yisrael only given to Yotzei Mitzrayim Bilvad, and Tfolim, let's say what's Tfolim, Tinoikes, that were born in the Midbar and they never went out of Mitzrayim, they not Neitel Chelik Boretz. So the Kappas Morim, the Gerim is the same thing. They weren't with us in Mitzrayim. All the Gerim were added on and annexed to Klal Yisrael only during the Midbar, in the Nedudim B'Midbar, and during the 14 years of Kibush V'Chalukah. Mele V'Bal, they weren't there. Shekel also love the Chalukah is not going to be to Yotzei Mitzrayim. Therefore, the Gerim will also take place in Eretz Yisrael as they zokt the Kappas Morim. If you look at the Medrash says, Omar Rabbi Yoed, if you look at the Pesukim, I'm reading the Pesukim, Sefer Yehoshua, Perek Mem Zayin, Chilaktem Esoretz Azois Lochem, L'shifti Yisrael, V'hoyo tiplu oisa benachal lochem, V'lehagerim agorim b'seichem, Asher oilidu bon b'seichem, V'hoyo lochem ke'ezrach b'nei Yisrael, Itchem iplu benachlo, B'seich shifti Yisrael, V'hoyo b'shevet asher gar hager, Ito shom, Titnu nachlos enu Hashem Elokim. Zog the Medrash, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Loy oid el b'mokim shu mizgayer mishom unoit l'chelkoi, shenema b'shevet asher gar hager shom titnu nachlos. Barbanel says, Ibal they'll suffer loss and lovish, the game will suffer just as much as Klal Yisrael. They will get in Eretz Yisrael. Where are they going to get? Every ger where he lives in Nachlos Yehuda, he's going to get in Nachlos Yehuda. If you look in the Gemara in Saned, in Daf Tzadik, the Gemara steht as a Tanya Rav Simoy Oimer. Minay l'tches amesim min atayr shenema v'gam hakemois is brisi yitzchem losas lochem es eretz Knan lochem lo inema el lohem mikan l'tchias amesim min atayr. It doesn't say the Kodesh Baruch Hu says lochem. It doesn't say it says lohem, which means Kodesh Baruch Hu Avram, Yitzchak, and Yankov are also going to get chelik in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael wasn't nirbash Avram, Yitzchak, and Yankov alone gone b'shas kibush haaretz. So where are they going to get? Where are they going to get chelik in Eretz Yisrael? The Tchias Hamesim and Torah, Avram is going to get up. Where are you giving him chelik? You gave it over to the Shvatim already. So, I mean, the Gemara says that there's a din mishmush and nachlo ilal. The Gemara says mishmush goes only to the shevet because gmir lekovi shiftas aloch lamish misinai. So the oves are not included. How are they getting chelik ba'aretz? I once heard years ago from my alte chavruse Harav Shimon Moshe Diski in the Masas HaMelech. He said, "Lo said love, there will be a new chalukah, and the Gerim will also take care of that chalukah. So the oves will get chelik just like the Gerim. They're not going to get Gerim al Shmam. They're going to get Keim betoich nachal hashvotim. The same way that the Gerim not to chelik boretz and they're getting it betoich nachal hashvotim, so too the oves, wherever they're going to dwell, Avram is going to decide to sit in Hebron in Nachlos Yehuda, he's going to get it betoich Shevet Yehuda. What do we have just to wrap it up in a nutshell? We have a shaila. What is the halacha of ger? Here apparently there is a din of chalukah shvatim. They're not getting chelik ba'aretz. As we cleared right now, it's possible that they are included in Zera Avram and they are included in Aviseinu, and you could say Obviously, yet they didn't get a chelik ba'aretz because they weren't from Yetzer Mitzrayim. L'asad lavoi Gerim will be neitel chelik ba'aretz in the nachala of the shevet they get to dwell with in those days.